if I was really to do this interview properly, my questions to Richard would be quite different to my questions to Dr. Doshi. But I've tried to arrange it so they're to a degree parallel. So my first question is, what lessons can you pass on to the audience? Some simple lessons you can pass on to the audience from what you learnt from those masters initially.
I think I learnt from Utsen many things, but two very basic things. The first one was that the landscape itself, without buildings, can be used as a spatial workshop off which you can spring to ideas in architecture. Not by copying nature, but just by taking the lessons that it shows us if we have the eyes and the mind and the spirit that is open to take them. The second thing, and I think possibly the greatest thing that I learned from Utsen, was his basic humanity. He was not interested in style. He was not interested in special form. He was interested in people and the making of places for people, the making of places of well-being. So if you take a seed and you put it in accepting ground, something will grow. In architecture, that seed is life itself. That's what I learned from it. Masuda, Japanese philosopher and architect. Very different kettle of fish. He was always interested in the thought that underpinned any sort of a building and the idea itself. That was the first thing. I hate to reduce it to only two things from him. But the second thing was he awakened us to the meaning of language. And the first lecture that he gave us was he wrote on a blackboard about 15 different characters for house in Japanese, and then he took the characters apart and showed us what made those characters up. And these are pictures of meaning. And so you saw the origin of house, dwelling, abode.
Dr. Doshi?
Very difficult to follow Richard afterwards. What do I say? But anyway.
Plenty, I suspect.
Corbusier and Kahn, the relationship was a guru and a disciple. Hardly many people know. Kahn never met Corbusier, but he always considered him as guru. So when he died, Corbusier, and I passed his atelier and then went to Philadelphia to teach. I went to his room in the evening in his office. He was sitting there quietly, and I had called him from down below, so he knew I was coming. So the conversation was like this. He says, do you know? I said, I just came from Paris. He said, for whom shall I work now? All his life, he said, I worked and I always hoped that if he ever saw the magazines and if by chance there was my work, what would you think about me? And I think that kind of a relationship tells many things about devotion. Both these people were devoted. Devoted to not only their work, but the relationship to their gurus. And the other thing is, Corbusier wrote in one of his earlier things was that he did not know really that he was going to be a revolutionary or known or whatnot. It was not like that, but it was his work. and his idea that he has to make a change for what he is. Khan was more humble. You could hardly talk to Khan. Nobody ever entered his house. Nobody knew. Because he would allow people to get dropped in the corner, crossroad, and he would walk to his house. Luckily, I was allowed to go and meet him. I knew his whole family. So both these people had a very different temperament. But Khan was only one who knew about Corbusier. He was revering. The quality of Corbusier was, for example, only the major thing would be India. What did he study? I never thought that somebody would study, climate everybody would study. But would anybody study? Because Corbusier always was writing in his diary, always sketches, writing dates. And if you look through his carnet, his diary, you find that he knew about Indian writing of Som, Mangal, Bhut, Guru, all the days, the months, the cosmic stars at that time. So I don't know whom he was talking, but he found everything in his diary and he wrote and he wanted to know the meaning behind this. Because he wanted to know really how people look at this. So miniatures, lifestyles, habits, all those things, he sketched. So when he came to India, for him it was a new world, completely different world. But he adopted and he went beyond the normal apparent country. He went into something which is inherent quality of it. In his early drawings and early books, you could see the Gopuras drawn. So it is not that he was not knowing things, but he was rediscovering them again in the context. Very organized, very, very precise. So painting was his another area that he was important. He was a friend of all those revolutionary painters. Picasso, Leger, Matisse. So all these things, are characteristics which talk about Corbusier's versatility and looking at things fresh. The one thing that he wrote to the students in 1970s, I found a letter addressed to the students. And he writes the first thing is, break all the rules. And I think it is very, very important. Because we make our own rules, we should break our rules. And I think that is a very important lesson.
When would you consider that you both started to divert slightly from the teaching of the masters? Not divert in a bad way, but to do work that was not in line with the teachings that you'd had from your, if you have multiple teachers, then you can't do multiple work. At some point in time, you're going to do work that is your own work. When did that start to happen with you two?
When did I break? Is that what you're asking?
I'm trying not to ask that.